Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us across the fence. I'm Fran Stoddard. The University of Vermont is first and foremost a land-grant institution. That means there's an obligation to do research that benefits the people of Vermont. UVM Extension represents the front line of this work, and one event that epitomizes the mission to service is the annual Crops and Soils Field Day, which is hosted by Extension's Northwest Crops and Soils team. COVID-19 has taken this annual in-person gathering online. And yet the purpose remains the same: bring the latest practical research to the people. Here's more on how the field day is taking root online in 2020.
Every July, farmers, researchers, and educators flock to Borderview Research Farm in Alburg to attend the UVM Extension Northwest Crops and Soils Program's Field Day.
I think the most people we've ever had attend was about 325 from all over the place. So not just Vermont, but New York and New Hampshire and Rhode Island, and many of our colleagues from Quebec come as well, but not this year.
In spite of the pandemic, the research and the program's commitment to share their work with the public hasn't stopped. Heather Darby leads the Northwest Crops and Soils program.
We've decided to go virtual like everyone else and have virtual field day Fridays. We're going to split our normal tour into a number of weeks, so a number of Fridays. Starting at the end of July, we'll have our first virtual field day, and we'll be touring the experiments. Every week you'll get to see one or two experiments that are going on at Borderview Farm, learn about some of the results that we're seeing, take a look at the research projects, walk the field with myself and all the different staff that work here at the farm, and get to ask some questions.
Spacing the presentations out over several weeks will allow researchers to discuss different experiments and provide up-to-the-minute analysis as different crops hit their peak.
This year, even with the pandemic, we have over 50 different research experiments going on here at the farm, so it's going to be hard to choose. Usually we get to bring people and show them more than what we're going to get to show them in these little video clips. We're going to look at some of our hemp research and our work with hops as well. And we'll, I'm sure, show everyone some of the forages that are out on the farm and highlight some of our integrated pest management projects as well.
One experiment that's sure to get farmers and fellow researchers to camp out on the Northwest Crops and Soils website is to find out what's going on inside these tents.
We're using those tents to cover up corn, and they're actually very large insect traps. And we're trapping European corn borer underneath the traps as they emerge from the soil. And we're actually looking at if these beneficial nematodes in the soil are eating the rootworm larvae. So we count the beetles that emerge to understand if we've seen a reduction or not due to the nematodes. So they're big insect traps.
The research at Borderview Farm resonates with the University of Vermont's mission as a land-grant institution and its commitment to bring practical, scientific research to Vermonters.
You know, honestly, we do all this work and this research so that we can provide farmers with the most relevant, up-to-date scientific research that's available to answer the questions that they might have on their farms and challenges that they're facing, but also to look at new opportunities. And there's no sense of doing that research and keeping it all to ourselves. We're doing it for the farming community, and it's important for us to get it out there no matter what the condition is. And in this case, we can't get together, which we really miss, because I think we all miss that social aspect of being able to talk to each other and really look at the plants and see what's going on. But we're all in the same boat, so we're going to get the information out anyway. We just have to use some new techniques.
Borderview Farm will be quieter this year, but the actions of the researchers here continue to speak as loud as ever even when visitors are far afield. In Alburg, I'm Keith Silva with Across the Fence.
Virtual Field Day Fridays start July 24th and run through September. Visit the Northwest Crops and Soils webpage to find out what will be covered week to week. All the videos will be archived, so there's no reason to miss out what's happening down on the farm. Many museums have closed and taken their collections online due to the pandemic. In a few minutes, we'll tell you how you can virtually visit UVM's Fleming Museum. First, we want to share a story from our archive. Catherine Jansen brings panoramic photographs down to human scale. Her work was featured at the Fleming a few years ago, and she spoke with Across the Fence about her art and her love of India.
I started going to India about 30 years ago, maybe longer, and I was, at that point, a long-time meditator. I started meditating early in my 20s, and I went really for spiritual reasons. I would go to ashrams or go on retreats, and I spent a lot of the time in India in the beginning looking at the back of my eyelids. And after many, many trips, I felt like I owed India something for all that I had received from the country. And so I contacted an orphanage and I said, the next time I'm in India, could I come and do seva? In India, that's selfless service. That's the word they use. So the woman said yes, and that was in Varanasi. So after that trip, I went to Varanasi and I spent 2 weeks living in the orphanage with the children. They were street children and orphans, and I got very involved with that community. All of these images have been sewn together using Photoshop, and they're sewn together using different angles. There are many, many images within the images, but they tend to look like a straight image. But if you know anything about photography, you know that a camera can't do these. But they could be kind of deceiving, and I've had professional photographers not realize that they're actually stitched together. So I want it to be both very natural and something you're comfortable with.
What's the meaning of 1008?
Well, if you asked any Hindu or any Indian that, and there are over 1 billion of them in the world, each one would know, because 1008 represents the god Shiva. And it's believed that there are 1008 names for the Lord Shiva. And the thinking behind this, I think, is very interesting, is that there's no one thing or even 20 things that could describe God. But these, if you got 1008, you would get closer, but not the full picture. So it's a way of looking at the world with all of its multiplicity and levels and trying to get to the essence without thinking you can do it in one sentence. And so when I was doing the photographs, I felt like there were 1008 aspects to India that I had encountered, and that if someone saw them, they would get somewhat closer to the experience of India that I had, but not necessarily the whole one.
What's it like being a woman traveling alone through India, looking for these opportunities to take photographs?
I must be a little naive, or I've been living under a rock, but I did know it was a big deal, so that probably made it happen easier. I'd already been to India quite a few times, maybe 12 times with groups, so I knew the culture a little bit. And then I started, slowly, and then worked out. And I found the big advantage is being an older woman. I'm very unthreatening. People would invite me into their homes. I had the opening of homes and a level of intimacy that I think if a man was traveling by himself, he wouldn't have. And that was one of the big advantages. And then once I started doing work with orphans in the community got very protective of me. And even when I would go to foreign places outside of it, they would always keep tabs of me without me asking. So it was almost they wanted to protect me, and I never had one bad experience.
So the show's not just photography, there's sound and other multimedia aspects of it. How does everything tie together?
Well, when they offered me the show here, we discussed it, and this is such an innovative museum, and they're so committed to connecting with the audience, and they, as well as myself, felt like technology was a course, a good vehicle for doing that. The piece that's an installation piece gave us an opportunity to show 1,008 images from the book rather than the few you can ever do when you're framing them and hanging them. And then I had, through my travels, had recorded street sounds, and so those were woven together into, I think, a very beautiful background sound. So that's playing as each of those images, and it's not like a slideshow, they're merging in and out of each other, sort of pulsating. So it just gives another experience. So we felt like we've got auditory, and we have visual, and then I also have some of the books out, so there's a kinesthetic experience. They can thumb through the books. And just using all of those modalities via technology, I think makes a much more interesting show.
What do you want viewers to take away from this show?
I'm going to be giving a talk in April, and I would like my talk to be about the power of beauty and how it's so important in the human experience. And we're potentially the only animal that responds to beauty. And when I think about it, I think that's such a powerful gift that was given us. And the trails that I followed were always looking for the beauty, and not the Hallmark card beauty, but just the authentic beauty that I felt like was everywhere. And I know people have made a lot of photographs of India, and oftentimes they're very depressing and unsettling, and I think some of mine are unsettling, but I always still try to bring that element of beauty into them. And it's sometimes the friction between the unsettling and the beauty that make them even more powerful, I would hope. So I would like people to question, what role does beauty play in my life, and can I see beauty in things that we don't typically think of as being beautiful, and change their way of seeing and open up their life to new experiences.
Head on over to Fleming at Home. There you can virtually tour current and past exhibitions, watch artists and curators lecture on their work, and catch up on past episodes of Across the Fence. And that's our program for today. Thanks for joining us Across the Fence. I'm Fran Stoddard. Stay well.